of times people first a lot of times people first get a call and get the grant, then they look for the ideas. That is reverse order. Then once you have the prospective grant, you develop the general proposal. You already had the idea, you develop the general proposal, and then you go ahead with preparing specific proposals, then submission. The review process happens once you're awarded. Sometimes you may negotiate, and then you carry out the project. And very, 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 very important, report, because sometimes some people are good at winning proposals, but after they win the proposal, it becomes a problem. They don't report. And if you don't meet the funders' reporting obligations, then your chances of the project being cut short are very high. And then your chances of winning any other project from that funder also becomes a problem. And then you may also get yourself a reputation for being unreliable, and therefore other agencies may learn about it, and then you don't win project grants after that shortfall. Now, what is involved in identifying needs? First of all, we need to really have an idea of the pain. I use the word pain, the problem. What is affecting people? People are suffering some pain because of and you want to do something about that pain. So what is the pain that you want to address? Because if there is no pain to alleviate, then maybe your study may not be necessary, or your project may not be necessary. Of course, for basic research, sometimes the problem is knowledge gap, but ultimately, for most proposals, you got to be able to go down and identify the pain. Then who does the problem affect? You've got the pain, but who is actually affected? That needs to be defined. And in doing this, it's important to pay attention to priority groups. If there are groups that are identified as maybe disadvantaged, they are very good targets for projects. Then how important is the problem? You've talked about the problem, it's pain to some people, but how important is it? Be able to highlight the numbers, the severity, so that people are able to, then the reader realizes that your project should be prioritized. Then when we're talking about a problem, it's not that simple. The problems are normally complex. They have causes. One problem leads to some effect, and I hope many of you are familiar with the problem tree. It's good to draw your problem tree in order to be able to know the elements of the problem, so that your proposal is actually describing or attending to the different elements of the problem. Then it's important to also understand the evidence that exists that this is an important problem. You don't just claim that it's an important problem. Use data, whether it is from government, then there are maybe policies, national policies, global development agenda, which points to the fact that this is an important problem. Then indicate that the problem is urgent, because there are many problems, but possibly some are not very urgent. So if it's not urgent, it can be shelved, but try to highlight the urgency. And this has to be based on facts, on literature, on documented information. It's not enough to sensationalize it, to kind of dramatize what you're looking for, but through looking at the literature, you are able to indicate the urgency. Maybe it has already been indicated that from your national development plan, the target is to achieve this by 2024. So it is really urgent as we are running out of time and so on. Then what has been done to address the problem and what gaps remain? it's important that you show that you are aware of the existing interventions and that what you're suggesting is not repeating any of those, but adding value or even improving where the others have failed. I mentioned problem tree. It's important to kind of dissect your problem. What's the problem? What are the primary causes, secondary causes? What are the effects? And once you have this, as you write your proposal, you are able to take into account all of these elements so that your project achieves the results it should. Now, when it comes to the intervention, the solution, it's also important. Now you've finished dealing with the understanding the problem statement, you come to your intervention, which is the objectives and elements like that. So as far as the intervention is concerned, we had a problem tree. You should also have an objective, a solution tree. What outcomes are you looking for? And for those outcomes, what interventions contribute to those outcomes? It's important also to look at, for the different outcomes. Admin, you need to mute another person, somebody who is not muted. For your different interventions, you justify the ones you choose. These interventions that you choose should be the most appropriate. We should endeavor to show that they are the most appropriate. And that is why it's important to know what are the alternative interventions. And once you've known that, you can choose the most appropriate. Then, about your capacity to deliver. Do you have the expertise? Do you have the resources? Do you have the experience? Does your institution have the resources, or is it within even your mandate to do that intervention that you're proposing? So that's also important when it comes to describing the solution. And components of the solution, there are different components, but some of the very important ones, you have to have your aims or goals stated. That is the broad objective. You need to state the specific objectives, and I do believe you are all familiar of the fact that they should be SMART, and they should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. For research, oftentimes we want to ensure that we have a hypothesis stated, all research questions, ultimately, what are you going to test, or what research questions are you going to answer? Then you normally always need to have either theory of change or log frame. Even if the funder doesn't request for this, it's good that you have them. They help you to be able to ensure that what you're writing in the narrative is logical. So the log frame summarizes interventions and the relationship of those interventions to results. The theory of change does something similar, but it has a broader view in that it looks at other factors that may affect the interventions, and normally diagrammatic, while the logical framework is normally tabular. And this is the solution opportunity tree. We said you think about the outcome, the opportunities, and then the interventions. And as far as interventions is concerned, you go as detailedly as possible. And one thing which is important is to be able to put your problem tree besides your solution tree and see that you've actually been able to address the different components of the problem. Because if you have gaps, then your solution may not, or your project may not actually result in the desired effect, because you've not addressed some of the causes of the problems or the effects of the problem. This is an example of a theory of change. Again, you're thinking about inputs, outputs, outcome, and impact. You have indicators, assumptions, And if there are any factors that may affect your progress, you need to be able to address them. So theory of change increasingly being used in projects. Previously, mainly proposals required logical frameworks, and the logical frameworks have the results, which you can be impact, output, outcome, activities, and then you have the indicators, means of verification and assumption. So these, again, like I said, funders may not ask for them, but it's important. Once you have this, you have your project, and you can be able to ensure that it is the different elements are captured in the narrative. Of course, we said after you have dealt with the focus, so these initial components have given you the focus. What are you going to work on generally? And then once you have the focus, it's easy to now look at the funding agencies and see whether what you intend to do meets their tallying with their interests. And for most people who are into proposal writing, you are always looking at funding sources and comparing them with the ideas you have. So it's a continuous process. But also, if you're connected in different professional networks, those are normally good sources of information about grants. This list is not exhaustive, but these are some of the good databases that you can use to search for grants. And always look at the priority of the granting agency. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time developing a proposal, you submit it, but it does not meet the guidelines, or you are not even eligible. You are possibly a university and they don't fund universities, or you are an NGO, they don't fund NGOs. So make sure that you look at the call with the view of establishing whether it matches with your ideas. Now you've decided you're going actually to go ahead and submit a proposal, develop a proposal for a given agency, funding agency. Most proposals are required to have these elements. Some may not have a summary, some may not require a summary, some do, but mostly the general elements include a title page, a summary or abstract, an introduction, which has a problem statement, purpose, specific objectives, justification, and significance, the methodology or implementation plan, anticipated results, monitoring and evaluation. Even if this has not been specifically asked in the call, most times it's good to include dissemination also. Even if this has not been specifically asked for, include it. Personnel, who are they going to implement the project, timeline or time frame, budget, and budget justification. These are the general elements. Again, look at the call or the guidelines and make sure that you do not have redundancies. Title page, normally very little is included, but it's a very, very important component. It should be the title, it includes the title. Most times it has names of the applicants and their affiliations, address, whom are you addressing this proposal to. If it is being submitted to the European Union, you'd say that, and maybe specify the program, the project dates, and amount of funding requested. Now, I forgot to mention, some calls give you templates, and all you do is fill templates, so you won't have a title page or there's a component where this information will be captured. But I wanted to highlight something very little about the title. The title should be catchy, it should be informative. If somebody reads your title and they are not captured, then you've missed an opportunity. And it shouldn't also be lengthy. It should be precise, catchy, yet informative. Big task, but it is achievable and it's necessary. The summary, this is now a short version of the whole proposal. Again, another difficult task. We normally write this last, but it provides the reader with the first impression of your project. And as you know, the first impression is extremely important. So you want to make sure that you have all your selling points. You've know the problem, it is clearly stated, you've shown the purpose, the novelty, your solution, why it is a good solution. So this summary basically should be able to stand alone. Somebody reads it alone and is positive to go forward, positive that the team has a good proposal. If it is a lousy one, chances are the whole proposal may not be viewed favorably. So pay a lot of attention to the summary or abstract, whatever they call it. The introduction, this normally has the elements about the target group, the target population, what are the key issues affecting the area, the area and the population. And then the statement of the problem should be clear. We've already mentioned some of those elements, but it's always, this is easy to not pay attention to. You have read the funders' interests, you know their priorities, and you have a problem. Try to make the link between the funders' aims and what you are writing. Nantongo seems to be doing something with the screen. Then description of the proposing organization. It's also important to use the introduction to show the connection between the proposed intervention and your organization and your experience. Do you have the mandate? Do you have experience doing similar work? Then efforts, previous efforts to address the problem, you need to show that that is well known. Rationale, the project relevance, innovativeness. Try to get a project vision. Let people be able to say what you're aiming to see at the end of the project. Then for the implementation, the user guide is, let it be such that another competent person can actually implement. So have you described your work sufficiently, showing what is to be done, how it's to be done, when it's to be done, where, who, and why? Element why, sometimes we don't pay attention to it, but they are different. You have to justify directly as much as possible the different things you're doing, and that gives you points in most of the evaluations. Then you need to show, for example, if you are picking one method over, there could be methods that are generally used and you're picking another method. That comparative advantage is important. Once it's reflected, it also gives you points as far as the methodology is concerned. This issue, the component of implementation plan and methodology oftentimes carries a lot of points in evaluation. So it's important to pay a lot of attention to this section. And for many development programs, it is important that you show how the target beneficiaries are going to be involved. It's not good for you to say, we are researchers, we are going to do this and leave. How are you involving the target beneficiaries? And that helps to ensure sustainability of results. And apart from the fact that it helps to ensure sustainability of results, it's also good to state how you're taking into, how you are contributing, what efforts, what proactive endeavors will be in place to contribute to sustainability. Anticipated results, already you are just writing a project, but it's important that people, the reader, is clear, or the proposal is clear on what the anticipated results are. And this should be quantifiable and time-bound. So the log frame, for example, should be saying you're having 2 publications by end of year 2. That's a deliverable, it should be stated. 52 people trained in this by the end of this time. Those quantifiable results or deliverables should be clearly articulated in the document. You should be able to describe your monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Increasingly, it's, attention is being put to learning. It's not only monitoring and evaluation, but how do your monitoring and evaluation activities influence the project implementation and the activities that are going on. You don't wait until you finish the project and then start learning. We should integrate learning. So this is important. It should be described how it will be done, what tools will be used, what resources are being allocated. Sometimes we write a project and because they say M&E, it is included there, but when you go to the budget, it's not included. When you go to the Gantt chart, it's not included. That is inconsistent and should be avoided. So be as innovative with your M&E as possible, involve the target beneficiaries and so on. Show that you know the risks and specify mitigation. But the other aspect is to know that you're looking at process and results. It's important to make sure that the process aspects are monitored, but also the result aspects are monitored. For most projects, as you implement, you also need to undertake some dissemination, and this needs to be articulated, it should be described, it should be budgeted for, and it's important also to look at novel ways of disseminating and be clear on the targets as far as the audiences are concerned. If you think that the scientific community is important, you possibly have publications. But if you also think farmers are important, publications may not be useful for farmers, so you need also to take into account that. If you think policymakers are important, how are you going to disseminate to the different audiences? So it's important that you understand the audiences and have a clear plan on the dissemination to those audiences. Among the key resources in implementing a project, whether it's research, development, consultants, it's personnel. And you need to ensure that you constitute a strong team, technically, team with experience, team with the expertise, and show it. It's sometimes if you can't capture it in the main proposal, you can have the CVs attached. You can be innovative and put links to people's websites. Let it be clear that you have a strong team. Mention it. It's not enough to put names. Professor so maybe the reader doesn't know who that professor is. But once you have a catchy, short description of their achievements, their experience, that helps. One of the aspects that shouldn't be forgotten is gender balance. Sometimes we write gender mainstreaming in the proposal, but the team is full of only men. That is a disadvantage. It can make you lose points. So wherever possible, try to do a balance of the gender. Time frame, of course, is important. We said aspect of when what will be done needs to be described. And one simple way to capture that is in the Gantt chart. And as you have your time frame, it's important that you cross-check it against the implementation plan. You have a time frame. You've mentioned that M&E is going to be done annually. Let it also match with what you've described in the M&E section. If you're going to do your experiments 2 seasons a year, let it also be reflected in the Gantt chart. That coherence of the different components of the proposal is extremely important. The other important aspect is that you should be realistic. Time frames need to be realistic, and the fact that, if your time frame is not realistic, that alone is adequate to reject a proposal. It shows that it's not feasible. The call is for 2 years. You have an activity which requires 5 years, and you try to squeeze it in 2 years because that's what the call says. The evaluators will easily see through, and that will be a problem for your proposal. We mentioned earlier on that proposals should be good money, good value for money invested. So the budget needs to be matching the outputs, the results. The budget, even if the funder has a limit of 1 million and your idea is $100,000, don't just try to stretch an $100,000 idea to fit in the 1 million. Rather look for the 1 million idea. Otherwise, your proposal is definitely going to be rejected. So the budget should be realistic. It should really be commensurate with the activities that you planned. It should be logical. You already have the components that you're dealing with. Are they well matched with the budget? Otherwise, you're going to have M and E, as I mentioned, in the activities, but it's not captured in the budget, and that's a problem. You have training of students, but you don't have a budget for it. Those inconsistencies can make reviewers doubt your ability to deliver and therefore reject your proposal. It's also important to look at the guidelines, because sometimes guidelines give you limits. Do not have direct costs go beyond this amount, or indirect costs go beyond this amount. That needs to be taken care of. It's important to limit expenditures on the non-essential. If you think the delivery of the project can go on without buying a vehicle, it is always beneficial to ensure that the resources are actually mainly invested in the essential elements. Then oftentimes we use currencies that you're going to spend in, and then you can convert to the currency that the funding agency requires, but different funding agencies may give slightly different guidelines. If you have additional funding, sometimes you're implementing a project and you're just asking for additional funding, so you need to show that already. Otherwise, you get a problem. If it is a multi-year project, we normally indicate the amounts per year, and sometimes if it is not that, they may even want you to indicate amounts per quarter. Again, depends on the guidelines. Then one mistake, and unfortunately it is common, arithmetic errors. You have a project, when you add the different components, the total is 520,000, and your proposal is written 420,000. If it is approved and you have 420, you're stuck, because you have said you will deliver those different outputs, but the money you included, you had an arithmetic error. So just use Excel, make sure that there are no arithmetic errors in your proposal. We are almost closing, so I thought again that possibly there are a few things that I can leave with you as you try to become a more prolific grant winner. All of us need to become more prolific. It doesn't matter how many you've managed to win. And one of the key things, you don't write a proposal, you are not going to get the grant. So write proposals. It doesn't matter that however good your idea is, if it's not presented in the form of a proposal, you're not going to get the grant. And the rejection rates are high. The success rates for most programs is maybe about 20%. Some of them it's lower. So if one of your proposals is rejected, shouldn't deflate you. You should just go back, polish the idea, and submit again. then it's important to gather relevant information. And this relevant information includes the specific subject matter information, but a lot of cross-cutting general information. Do you know the policies that relate to your project? Do you know the ongoing activities with relation to this? Do you know the politics around some of these issues? Once you don't have that, you're already disadvantaging yourself. You need to keep up to date with the funding opportunities. Again, if you wait for the funding opportunity to land on you by luck, you're going to miss some. But if you're proactive, you are able to identify funding opportunities. Teaming up with those who are already actively winning grants is very important. If you are from Africa, sometimes if you have colleagues in the North, their governments are giving grants, and if they're, you network with them, you can have lots of opportunities just because of the relationship you have with people in other countries. But even within Africa, you should network with people who are successful in grant applications. They can help you read through your grant application. You can apply together, and that helps a great deal. Be visible online. Sometimes a person is looking for a sociologist to work with, but they don't know any. But when they get online and they realize there's a sociologist from Burkina Faso, they have some publications on the relevant area, they then write you, they contact you so that you can apply for the grant together. So be visible online. Propose unconventional project ideas. There are many good ideas, but they are over-researched. Everybody knows that this works, but no, many organizations are not going to fund them. They are effective, but they are conventional, so doesn't need another new person working on them. So think outside the box. This statement, think outside the box, means you should know the box. If you don't know your discipline, you may think you're thinking outside the box, yet you are really in the box. So know your discipline, read widely, and that helps. Sometimes they invite, and I'm an editor of some journals. When you invite people in Africa to review articles, they are very unlikely to accept. But the more you read what other people are doing, the more you learn about what's going on, and therefore you can start forming your other box which doesn't already exist. So read widely. That helps to facilitate thinking outside of the box. You can identify a niche or niches for yourself. There are some people who make a reputation for a certain subject. It's unique, but there are not very many people in that area. Get there and become the go-to person as far as that is concerned. Whether it is a new crop, a new food, a new technology, once people relate you to that niche, then it opens for you opportunities. If you have a project, let it be a stepping stone to new projects. It's sad when you do a project and it never leads to another. If as much as possible, let a project lead to another. The completion of one, if you've got a good results from that, it can easily lead to the other. The funders know you, you have results, you have the knowledge, and you can build on that. Mind the packaging. However good your idea is, poorly packaged, it won't work. So invest in packaging. If you know people who are very good at writing, reading through, work with them, let them help you to package the proposal. Mind the packaging. Let the proposal be rejected for something else, but not because the language is poor, the coherence is poor. I've said this many times, and I'll say it again: meticulously follow guidelines. Simplest way to reject a proposal is to just say you didn't follow the guidelines. You submitted, 2 minutes past midnight, yet the deadline was midnight. That's good enough. It doesn't have to be read by anybody, just the receiving person can reject it right away. And that's not a good way to spend your time. I'll end with a small quote which says, "There is no grantsmanship that will turn a bad idea into a good one. But there are many ways to disguise a good idea." So if you have a good idea and you package it badly, you're actually disguising it, and it will not be given its due merit and could be rejected. So let's write as much as possible, but write well and have good ideas. So that's the end of talk. Thank you, and I available to answer any questions or receive any comments. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you, Prof, for the presentation. To our listeners, I am Bumba Ernest. I'm from Uganda, and I am among the leaders of the Young African Professionals and the Leaders Forum. Our president, I can say acting chair, was supposed to be with us, but he is in the field. You know, sometimes actually we are happy when people are busy. Always, yes. He missed out, but still we are happy because he's doing something outside, and we are all doing something, but we have tried to to give some time to this presentation. We are glad for all members who have attended, and let us give a hand clap to our professor for taking us through this topic. Let me unmute Dr. Simon Bere to continue taking us through as we ask questions. Prepare your question so that you ask Prof is here.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Simon Bere. Maybe to inform members,
Okay.
Dr. Simon Bere here is from Burkina Faso, and as you all know, Burkina Faso is a francophone country, but you can hear his English. He speaks it better than me.
Okay.
Boka is also there from Senegal, but his English, I also promised to learn more French than them. But for now, they speak better English than mine. Back to you.
Yes, okay. Mr. Bumba, thank you very much. Okay, I would like to thank Prof. Muyonga for his presentation. It was so amazing, so exciting about how to write. Hello?
Yes, I will meet them.
Yes, it was so amazing, exciting what he said about how to write a successful research grant paper. Okay. So I want to say that actually maybe we can go through with the question. Yes, the question. If some of us have a question about what he present and a comment, you can just raise your hand and take the floor. Okay.
Yes, members.
Thank you again, Prof, for this presentation.
In the comments, or you can raise your hand. I will pick you, and then I want to mute you, and then you ask your question. I'm sorry.
Any question? Or it has a is okay.
There is a hand from, there are two hands up.
Yes.
That I see. Moderator, I don't know that you see there is a hand
Yes,
from
Mr.
Star.
Muktaso, you can unmute yourself and ask, or I should unmute you. I have asked you to unmute. Yes, you can ask your question.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. I am Mokhtar Sow from Senegal. And first of all, I wanted to thank the professor for the presentation. It was so informative, and thanks to him and thanks to all the team for organizing this activity. So now seeing all the presentation, it's very clear, really. And there remain one question about the number of pages that have take the proposal. My question is, what is the maximum of pages that it have to take, or the minimum of pages? Seeing that we can use all the diagrams and the logical frameworks, so that means that that can go to a lot of pages. So my question is there a maximum of pages that you have to present? So what left now is a request. As I was having, I tried to take screenshots for some of the slides, but now I wish I had all the slides. So I don't know if it is possible that the professor shares with us the PowerPoint document, so that we will have a document in hands that we can use after, inshallah. So I thank everybody, and I hope that you get my speech. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mukta, for your question. Professor noted. Boka is also having a hand up. Dr. Boka, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Dr.
Thank
Boka?
you, Mr. Bumba. Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bumba. Thank you, Brother Sumabere, for your moderation. First of all, as my colleague have stated, I wanted to thank Professor for his brilliant presentation. We have learned a lot. There were many information. This is not the first time I attend this type of topic, but really I have got many information from his presentation, and we are very grateful for that. Okay. So I'm in a workshop. I've tried sometimes to come back to understand, to listen, to take some notes from his topics. My question, or my thinking is first about, is there some people that are specialized in reading proposals, meaning that if I want to apply in one grant, I write my proposal, I submit to them so they can read or just give me some advice, so I increase my chances of getting the grant. Because from your presentation, I got that it's about 20% or less than 30% people that are allowed or that get the grants they write for. So is there some tools or some kind of mechanism that I can use to increase my chance of getting the grants? That's why I'm thinking of, if there are some people that are specialized of reading it, anytime I write, I just submit to them first. That is one point. The second point is about, since as we are young African professional leaders, how or what advice can the professor give to us, or what type of grant can we apply for? I'm thinking of, the aim of this YALF is to increase or to improve collaboration between youth, African youth leaders. So is there some types of grants we can apply for to develop our activities, to increase or to develop leadership among youth people? So that is also one question I wanted Prof to give some clarification or some guidance. I want to finish by asking the same request as my colleague. if it's possible for us to get this presentation, because I think it will be very valuable for us. Thank you all for this presentation, for the activity. Sumambere, also thank you for your moderation. So looking forward to getting our answers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Boka. Mr. Samambere, you can
Yes.
yeah, you can ask James Rupai. I see the hand is up. I've unmuted him. He can also ask his question.
Thank you so much, admin. First of all, I want to appreciate Professor for the elaborate presentation. I'm James from Uganda, particularly in Arua. Mine is a request on how to effectively link the solution tree to the problem tree. I think I didn't get much on that area. I request if the professor could elaborate more for me, because I think that's the area that I needed to understand more. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Welcome, Prof. Has noted. I saw some question in the comment section. I would read for Prof. Someone was asking for the recording. That one we shall share it. Someone from taking note, the name is not there, has asked how someone can get notification of such programs, maybe of the grants. I think I wanted to mean how can someone get the notifications of the grants or research grants which are open. Mr. Kazunga has said proposal writing is kind of a competitive field. How do I go about a proposal where a SIM is not provided? How does the aspect of license affect the executive summary in allowing the funders? That is a question from Mr. Kazunga. And then Paul Muliamboga is thanking Professor for the wonderful presentation. Are there more questions, or we allow the Prof to respond? For now, I'm not seeing any hand. Prof, back to you. We shall give them the floor later after. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the comments and the questions. About the slides, I think I will share them with the panelists and can share. That means that maybe members need to have an way of him sharing electronically. Now, for Mokata, I hope I'm getting the name correct. The pages, number of pages, there is generally no one standard for the number of pages, but this is one of those aspects which most guidelines sure. They will tell you how many pages the proposal should be, and in some cases, they actually indicate for each component how many words, or in sometimes how many characters should be in a section. So as you write, to begin with, I would say write, and then when it comes to matching with the guidelines, you make sure you are able to fit in. Sometimes when you start writing and you're already worried about the pages, then your flow of thoughts may be a problem. So I would say guidelines make sure you know what it is, but let it also not be a hindrance to the development process, because you can summarize, you can add detail as you fine-tune the proposal. Specialized readers. There are people who sometimes offer support, even some who say they either specialized for certain funding agencies. Some will tell you training. They will even have write shops to come and make sure that your idea is developed. But I will emphasize that there is no alternative but to also try to develop one's own capacity, because the people who do this, one, they tend to be very expensive. Two, I think to a large extent, they may not have all that it takes, because you are the one who should show the passion, who should really understand the different components. They can help you with packaging. But if you look at what we've talked about, packaging is just one of the elements. You cannot, however good your packaging style is, you cannot get a lousy idea and package it so well and it passes. Once in a while you may succeed, but it's not, it's advisable that if you think that winning grants is key to your career, you try to develop your capacity to do grant proposal writing. And some of the organizations, when I share one of those, some of those databases, when you go to them, they are going to show you, when you look at the calls, some of them are for early career, mid-career, and senior scientists. So as you search, you look out for such tips. But there are also organizations like IFS, which concentrate on early career. But for some, they would have calls for early career and calls for senior. So I would suggest that you look at the databases and always check whether it is aligned with you. I also would encourage networking with, it's not good to only work, especially if you're early career and you link up with the more senior researcher, then your capacity, you're developing your capacity as you implement. So apart from looking for early career, also look at people who you can work with, who will actually be able to qualify for even the senior researcher grants. Now, James talked about how to link effectively the problem tree to the solution tree. The first thing is actually to make sure you develop the problem tree, of course, first, and do it without thinking. You don't have to worry about the solution tree when you're looking at the development of the problem tree. Now, as you realize the problem is at the center, and you're looking at the center, you have the problem, and if your proposal is going to address this problem, then there should be a desired outcome, which is solves that problem. That is now the outcome, and that now tallies with the outcome bit of the solution tree or the intervention tree. Then once you look at the primary causes and all those other causes, then you're looking at interventions that actually address the different causes of the problem. If you, and by the way, for the solution tree, while it is aligned with the problem, you actually, for some elements, you are not going to intervene. You are going to select interventions where you think you actually cause a significant contribution to the desired outcome. So it's okay to make sure that for the different elements of the problem tree in your solution tree, you have tried to match them. But in terms of your project, you then select and justify your selection. But I think with the experience, if you pick one problem, you should be able to see how the match can be done. And when I share the slides, the one that had them matched is a practical situation where the different aspects have been looked at, the different aspects of the problem tree have been looked at, and then the solution tree, whether it is policy, whether it is funding, and so on, are highlighted. And when you're a researcher, you may not address the funding, but you may be able to indicate how your research eventually, if disseminated, maybe it can contribute to improve the funding. Then when the theme is not provided, what do you do? Generally speaking, most calls will have some boundaries. The word theme may be a bit very specific, but it will have some boundaries, what they fund and what they do not fund. So you need to ensure that you are within the boundaries. Then one other thing which helps is as you read the call and as you read the priorities of the funding agency, to start looking at to what extent does your idea intersect, link, align with those elements. Because normally it's not a one item. There may be something about youth. But as you read further, you realize that they are very interested in aspects of agricultural, maybe it's youth jobs, but they also show you that agriculture has been noticed as an important aspect. So normally there's no call which is completely open. You can't focus, you don't see any line of focus. For the unsolicited, you will be looking at the priority of that organization and saying if they work with women, then you look at what problems are important for women and then align accordingly. So then they, of course, have mentioned before that aspects like national priorities, so on, also matter. If this organization is funding work in Burkina Faso, they are likely to want to see how your work contributes to the national priorities of Burkina Faso. So it's not in a vacuum. Recency and summary, I would even just say recency generally is something you should aim for. If your whatever you're using is not recent, then you are already disadvantaging yourself because the reviewer may be able to see more recent work showing that something has been done about what you claim to want to do, but also just the fact that you are not recent can be, it shows that you are not well prepared, you are not grounded in the field of work. So always aim for recency, and there is no reason not to with the current information technology and information access. There was a question, I think that Ernest, you are trying to read online that I may not have got properly. If you could use my answers to see if there is one I haven't answered, then I'd be happy to try to give my views on it as well.
Only one. Someone wanted to find out how we can get notified about the opening like opportunities for research.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I mentioned that Africa, we use a lot of WhatsApp groups, but your networks, are they networks which post such information? Some of the databases also allow for people to register, and once you're registered, any notification is sent to you. Then once you also look out for the networks, the databases, you can visit those regularly, but for some of them, you can register. For some of them, there's a fee, others are free, but once you register, then you can get information. If you are within research organizations, universities, oftentimes there will be people who are supposed to be looking out for opportunities and sharing them on the different platforms, maybe email lists and things like that. So my thinking is networks, and two, if you want notification, have see for some of them, it's even those we charge don't charge very much. You can have a membership on some of those networks, then every notification will come into your email and then you check it out. But once you are proactive, apart from notification, you'll be looking out, and then your chances of getting are high.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof, for the responses. Actually, this is a good learning. Mr. Simon Bere, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you can inquire in case there are more questions.
Okay, I would like to thanks again, Prof, for his answer. I think that we have it remain around 15 minutes, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe if we can.
May I ask another question?
Yes, what?
Dr. Lee?
Dr. Lee, you say?
Another question, please, if possible.
Yeah, yes, it is possible to have one question.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Professor, for your clarification. From your answer, I have understood that it seems like most of grants are for researchers. So my question is, actually or currently we know the importance of health education in preventing chronic or non-communicable diseases. So from the literature, I can see that people have written about it, and I know the impact of it. And now if my aim is only to implement, meaning that I want to take some school people, teach them, educate them about hygiene, about feeding, proper feeding methods, and so on. Is it possible to have some grants for this type of intervention? Like it's not for a research purpose, but only for implementation purpose. Thank you.
Prof has had you. Also, Prof, I would also like to ask you one question. I am just wondering the effect of one's CV to the chances of winning a grant. Is it research grant or maybe for implementation? Thank you, Prof.
Should I answer the two?
Okay, Prof.
Okay, now I'll start with the whether this is research only. I mentioned at the beginning that even personally, some of the proposals, some of the projects I've implemented are not research. So what we've said is not only research. When we look at the elements, whether it is understanding the problem, understanding the solution, and so on, it can also apply to development or call them intervention activities, projects. Now, when you go, one of the funding databases that I showed, it is actually specific to NGOs. And if you have activities such as you've mentioned of health education, that is a possible place to look for funding opportunities. It's a database. That means whatever funding that becomes available and they learn about it, they put it there. So you are able to look at what matches your activity. So it's important that one shouldn't feel that if it's not research, then it's not fundable. CV is important, but it's the score may not be that high. The whole issue is, if there is no match between the team and the work that is proposed, that is a problem. Secondly, normally if it is being scored, maybe it's no more than about 10%, but you would realize that if there is a question of saying you're trying to get a team that is completely unqualified or not experienced to do that, if you're asking for $1 million and the project you've ever managed is $1,000 or $5,000, it may be difficult for an organization to release that money to a team where the PI and everybody has no experience in managing a project of the size that is being released. So it's important to try to think about the capacity of the team, both in terms of technical, but also management experience and so on, and ensure that at least you're a strong team. Don't assume that the CV won't matter. Assume it will matter and make sure that the team is strong enough. That's why I said if you're a bit junior, it's okay to link up, to collaborate with the more senior people, and you put in an application. Then your CV improves, and next time you can apply as the PI. So it matters.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the responses. Mr. Simon, can find out if there is any other query, but I see only 10 minutes remaining.
Yes, thank you, Bumba. I think that it is almost to the end of the meeting. So I would like to say thanks again to Prof for this amazing presentation, who give us a lot of. Hello, somebody want to. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
You are low somehow low.
Is it a question?
No, I was just saying that you are not loud enough. Maybe you can try to add some.
Oh, okay. I'm saying thanks again, Prof. It was so amazing. Thank you very much for giving us. Who is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mumbere. Thank you, Prof, for this great presentation. Thank you, participants, team. We are supposed to have Professor Galandas talk to us, but I think she was really engaged somewhere. I tried to contact one of her staff, and they told me she wasn't in the city. It looks like she had moved somewhere, and we are afraid to get her. But we shall share this presentation to her, and actually the entire ASFA team. I've not seen anyone around, meaning that they should be really engaged because they support us, and this link we are using is for the ASFAP. ASFAP itself is the African Center of Excellence for Population, African Center of Excellence for Population Health and the Policy, and currently they are specifically working in research areas and they do a lot of research. And currently, they also introduced a program to do some, they have some scholarships, and they host a number of students from across Africa. And as I talk, I am one of the beneficiaries. And some of our colleagues here are also beneficiaries of a similar grant, but from another center called the African Center of Excellence for Dryland Agriculture, CDA, all of based at the Bayero University, Kano, Nigeria. And that is where we met to form this Young African Professionals Leaders Forum. This is our second presentation, but in addition to this, someone was asking about how to get these opportunities. We have one of our activities as the Young African Professional Leaders Forum is sharing the opportunities. We have a WhatsApp group. We have many younger professionals from across Africa on that page, and we try to share those opportunities which are meant for African. They can be for a study or job or grants, internship, volunteer work. We share all of that. And for country specific, we challenge the members to form their country specific opportunity platforms, but linked to our main platform with the purpose that there are many opportunities at country level, which we cannot share at the other main group. So members can be sharing their national specific activities at their national levels. Yes, we were supposed to have a presentation from the a chair for a Young African Professional Leaders Forum. And as I said earlier, that is, he just called me just like a 1 minute, 1 hour to the presentation, and he had an emergency. He was actually in the field. He got one of their donors came, and he had no option but to go and attend to them. So as I think we are coming to an end of this presentation, I would just ask the Prof to give us a closing remarks, give us some remarks. I know we look up to you. We are all really in that journey towards where you are today. We are also moving in that direction. And the guidance from you is really paramount for our own career and for the good of our countries and Africa as a continent. Thank you all. Prof, give us some closing remarks as we end the Zoom meeting.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for the invitation. It's been an honor talking to you, and I'll be happy if this is some information that actually impacts on your work. I've said, and I think it's important to just say it one more time, that the surest way of not getting grant awards is not to write the grant applications. The moment you don't write the proposals, it doesn't matter how much, how good your idea is, to never get funded. I also want to encourage you to say, whoever you see that may have one project, grant, be sure that they have one fewer grants than those that were rejected. So a rejection shouldn't put you off the journey. Just once you've got a rejection, cool off, dust it, revise it, and submit. And the journey never ends. I think we are all going to have to continue learning. The moment you think you know it all, then maybe there's a problem. So just be ready to learn as you go along, and I think you'll be able to write many grant applications and be successful at many as well. So thanks again, and wish you the best. And I do hope that this organization uh, helps to build each one of you, and together you can remain networked, because most projects now, most causes require that there are teams and international teams. So use this opportunity to farm your connection, so that when need be, you can easily call on each other and together make the proposals, and no doubt you'll be successful.
Okay. Thank you again, Prof. Thank you all, to all Profs.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think the meeting has come to an end.
Yes.
Actually, Prof, we are so grateful. Thank you so much for responding to our call.
And looking forward to get you again for another presentation.
We shall always come back. To members, Prof is one of the people I've known who always responds to the cause of the younger people. I am his former student. I did my undergraduate at the Makerere University School of Social Technology, and he was my dean. Prof does not only support you academically, but also to mentor and also to guide you in leadership. Me, there are many other people who went through him, always come back to him. And that is why you see, the first person to think about was Prof. And actually, he has just given us what we needed. I believe we shall all, we have all benefited, and there's something which has been added to our spirit. It starts from the spirit before you go up to implement something, or to do something. It starts from the spirit, the eager to do something. Thank you all for attending. And maybe someone would want to say to close this as our moderator. Is that someone better?
Yes.
My close us.
Thank you. I think that it is time. So I would like to thank again all participants for this learning session. We have learned a lot. Thank you all. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye to everyone. Here we meet. I will share the presentations after Prof sharing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you guys. See you next. Thank you so much.
Thanks.